But Sonny, you still think that Son is a better? You want him to stay on the left?
100. No, not on the left. I would never say the left.
No,
not you, Brains. Not you, Brains. We know your thoughts.
Go on, Sonny.
I personally think some of Son's best performances. I personally think Son's best performances have been on the left. You mentioned Newcastle there. I just still think I feel like saying he's lost his pace and that. I feel like his perfect goal scoring is cutting in and whipping one in, and he's good at bringing in a striker into play. Like, I think the reason Richarlison has showed good form is because of Son like helping him out. That's why I think I'd personally look at like someone like Santiago Jimenez at Feyenoord, who can play on the wing as well and is a good striker. I think he'd link up really well with Son. I think the positive thing is we have a player like Son. It's a shame he's not in his pomp again at 27, who can, he can play both positions. I just really enjoy watching Son play off the left. I think that's just maybe a personal preference. In certain games, like maybe a West Ham, where it's going to be really like tricky and you're going to have like massive defenders, I feel like sometimes Son with his back to goal and aerially, he might not work. So that I agree with what you're all saying about, in certain games it works, in certain games it doesn't. Because against Arsenal, for example, he was fantastic, with those first time finishes and sort of being played in behind. So I personally, I think I'm a bit sentimental when I think about Son linking up on the left, and maybe from his time playing on the left wing under Conte killed him off a little bit because he was basically playing as a left wing back.
But he also can't really do the going backwards, helping your right left back. That's tough for. Do you guys know how? Because I don't know. I know he's got 14 goals, 8 assists, which is, to be honest, that's actually pretty.
The majority have come from from the striking position.
So that's what I'm saying. Do you know how many games he's had?
I'm not sure. I don't know the stats. Sim will tell you in a second. But I think it's much heavily towards the striker.
When he's playing as a left winger, it's 10 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, which is pretty good still.
Not bad, yeah.
When he's playing as a striker, 15 games, 11 goals, 4 assists.
So it's a goal contribution a game as striker.
And have you seen him this season do that whole cut in and top corner goals against Brighton and Arsenal? He hasn't
not
really done that.
But that's not the way Ange sets up, right? Ange wants his wingers to go wide on the pitch and get crosses in the box. And you want Sonny to use his best attribute, which is if he's on the left, cutting inside and whipping one in, which is not going to happen that often under Ange, or being the number 9 and being as close to goal as possible so he can be the clinical striker that we know he can be. Yeah,
100%. Actually, most of the goals you see, like, for other people, come from his work off the ball, like creating the space. So it's not just about him. And I remember Ange saying, "Look, you don't rate a striker on their goals and assists. Like, it isn't just that, because 80% of their job is everything else." But then you look at 80%. If you just watch Sonny in games, even in games when his touch is not well, just look at some of his work, and it is breathtaking. It's non-stop in his channels, creating the space and the danger for other players. So I just strikers union here, but I think when I look at the two strikers, Richie and Son, it's worlds apart. It really is. He's one of the most elite finishers in world football, and he's been
and in Premier League history in terms of when you're looking at chances to goal conversion rate. I mean, you look at Haaland and you look at the amount of big chances he misses every season. Imagine if Sonny was playing number 9 in a Man City team. He would break all Premier League records by far in terms of when you're looking about how clinical he is. And all you got to look at in terms of the number 9 positional play, which what you're talking about, Brains, is that goal against Aston Villa that Timo Werner scored, I think it was, where he just moves, he just runs a little bit forward, then a little bit back, creates that space, and then Timo Werner's got an open goal to score into. I mean, that is elite level movement from a number 9 from Heung-min Son.
Yeah, it's the way that he stops, because he knows if you just watch the four defenders all stop, because the one who's nearest Sonny stops and panics, and then they all stop, and then it creates the area of uncertainty in behind them, which is unbelievable. You know what I mean? It's another level. And honestly, I'll inadvertently watch Richarlison. Now, sometimes it's actually his work rate's brilliant. He will come. He'll hold up. He's strong. He's got, and if Richarlison gets in his head, hustle, 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 he does a lot of that better than anyone. You know what I mean? He does do that. But what you lose then is the little bit further forward in the final third. You lose the kind of creating of the holes. And when he does do that hold up play, Sonny, when he does a little touch, boom, goes and he gets into the final point. Richarlison doesn't. Because it is a strain on the body to hold it up and fight, and then he kind of like slowly.
I think he's got better at it. I think he has got better at it. I think he was really struggling before that injury, but I think he's starting to improve that quite a bit.
And that's not to say that Richarlison's assets aren't incredible either, and wouldn't also do really incredible in another type of side that fits him. But I think he's a bit of a square peg in a round hole for how Ange wants to play football, right? Like that's.
What about at the beginning of the season though, like against Liverpool, where he played quite well, and Son was through the middle and Richarlison was on the wing? Is that an option maybe for next season to go back?
Yeah,
to
I think
we haven't actually seen it much, have we? Since
look, I
the
think
beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think it's an option. You got to remember as well, like what the beauty of this is. We got to realize that we're not trying to just get 11 quality players at this team. We need to have quality players that are of the first team quality on the bench. You look at the Man Cities, you look at the teams that we're trying to face right now. You've got quality on the bench, quality in the first team. Depending on what team that you're playing against, you pick the 11 that are going to go beat that team. And sometimes it might be Rishi on the side, maybe sometimes it will be Son on the left. But I think where they are at their best is at number 9 position for both of them. And I think it's a great option to have, when Sonny's not there or when Sonny's tiring in a game, to bring on a Richarlison at number 9. You've got 2 quality strikers there.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you look at so you're probably looking at Richarlison's stats, and it's like 10 goals and 3, and you're going like, wow, that's really not a bad backup. But it's more of a case of he's actually had a lot of game time. Sonny's been out at the the Asia Games. Like it's just whether or not if you're trying to build a 24-man team, that you take a Will Lancashire in. You get a Jimenez in, but then you have a Lancashire. And you try if Gaines are one, you give someone like that a chance. But that's
Brains,
something.
Here's a question, Brains. If you could only keep one, Werner or Richarlison, who are you keeping?
If I could only keep one, I'd keep. This would be controversial, but I'd keep Werner over Richarlison, because I think for how Ange wants to play, someone who can get to the byline, and in the little amount of games he's played, I've loved his runs. He has been taking his man on. You can see that they're saying to him, "Take your man on," and and I just think more other players score more goals that way. I went a whole season of watching Richarlison just so struggle, and obviously we're going to score more goals in this team with the way this plays, but what if you had the right players, that you'd score so many goals, like I'm just thinking of that Villa game, the one where Bentancur came back and got injured. That first 20 minutes, how were all those chances missed? It blew my mind. We should have been 4-5-0 up in that game, and that's at times like that just you start to go, we could have been flying this season. It's not even been the defensive issues. We could have been flying this season, even in Fulham. Just those chances and players not being in the right positions, which you don't even then consider a chance. But I'm looking at it going, that's another huge chance. We should be scoring way more goals. And it's good that we've got players all across that front line who have good stats. This is why stats are deceiving, right? Because you could be going, well, look at that. He's doing great. He's doing great. It's like, no, that's the system is actually good. Players are not really doing as good as they should be doing. And maybe that's a harsh way to look at it. I don't know, but that's how I look at it. As an attacker, I think like that. It's like we should be scoring more.